Chris, cybersecurity with organisations, what do they typically do when it comes to training?
Yeah, it's a good question, Dave. And we've seen lots of this, haven't we, over many years? And traditionally, it hasn't changed too much. So what we see is, your standard compliance training, which you do annually. You might have to do a sign-off, manual sign-off, but not usually. We see posters and post-it notes and little reminders sent to people, but it's a very static way to go about it. The annual compliance training, if we're honest with ourselves, we get through it as quickly as we can. We tick and flick, and we're doing probably emails at the same time. We're not really paying attention to it. As long as we get that, 90% correct at the end of the training, and we can put it aside for a year, we're done. But the result of that is it hasn't actually got up here, and it's not very relevant to people typically. Couple of issues there. One is the focus of the security awareness training for that year. Is it actually right? Is it actually hitting on what's risky to the business and what users are doing and what insiders are doing throughout the year in terms of risky activity? It's probably not, and it's usually not because organisations aren't measuring what users are doing, what's risky. It's someone's idea. We did phishing last year. We'll do data governance this year. We'll focus on that. Is that the right thing to do? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But usually for that user sitting in there, Frank sitting in the sales department, it's not really relevant to him. And so he's like, almost disregard it. Get it done, move on.
Yeah, it's often a bit of a race to the end, isn't it? So what are we seeing these days? I mean, we do some new innovative training methods with organisations. Talk us through some of them.
Well, it was almost by accident, I think, that you and I stumbled across this a few years ago when we started doing inside risk work. And what we realised is that what we were doing is near real-time security awareness training. Yeah. And so, we detect something for a user doing it with ShadowSock, with our platform. We'll detect a user sending a document to his Gmail account or downloading a whole subset of data from a database or something like that that's against policy. And so it's important to say too, these users are doing those things. It's usually because they don't know they shouldn't be doing it, right? And our process is that we then send those users an alert to say, hey, did you know that you're not supposed to send that to your Gmail account? Do you know you're not supposed to download that data and put it on a shared drive? And usually the users will say, well, I didn't know that. And they're just simply trying to do their job. And in doing their job, what they're doing is they're actually breaching policy. The interesting thing that we see is we almost never see those users do that same thing again. And not only that, they don't do it, but they'll turn to their mate, the other DBA, or the other sales rep or whatever it might be, and say, hey, did you know that you're not supposed to send that to your Gmail account or to Dropbox, or did you know that? And it actually has this almost a pebble in a pond effect where we alert for one user, but all of these other users within arm's reach also get the message as well. So it's near real-time security awareness.
Yeah, it's quite effective, and we see that we're leveraging the training and awareness throughout the year, and also it doesn't replace those traditional security awareness programs that have a place in an organisation, but it really adds value, and of course it drives the culture ultimately. Yeah, and we see that in the metrics that we report out to these organisations. So that's great. So any other innovative training methods, Chris, that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, I guess maybe just to drill down a little bit on why do we think it works? Because we talk about this a bit, right? Why does it work? Why is it so effective? So replacing, or not replacing, as you say, but augmenting or enhancing security awareness that already exists with insider risk detection and using that as a security awareness tool as well. Why does it work so well? And we think there's a few things there. The first thing is it's timely. As you say all the time, that user did that thing today, they get alerted right then and there or within a very short time. So it's timely. I did that then. It's relevant to that user right then and there. So the sales department might do certain things that the legal department don't do, but they're getting very very relevant alerts based on their specific activity. So it's personalised to them. It's not just some generic thing that someone thinks is okay for this year. It's personalised, and the context is bang on right then and there. So it has this preventative, effect throughout the organisation. As you say, it uplifts the culture because it's real. It's real life scenarios, and it means that what they're doing is actually now guiding them back onto track into the policy.
Yeah, exactly. The any real life scenarios or cases that we're able to share for this?
Yeah, well, we saw some users, some DBAs, actually talking about DBAs. We saw some DBAs, database administrators, in an organisation we're monitoring at the moment, who had a practice of downloading large swathes of information and putting into a shared drive. They were working it and so forth, and then they were doing certain things with that data. Now, what they thought was the case was that area of the shared drive was locked down. It wasn't locked down at all. And so what resulted was a very, very large amount of highly sensitive information being dropped on a shared drive that actually everyone in the organisation had access to. Now, they thought they were doing the right thing. They didn't realise they were breaching any policy or putting the data at risk. But when we alerted them to that, it was like, wow, thanks, we didn't realise that. We were able to change that systemic problem and make that put that in locations where the data was actually secure. Fix a real problem, because if there had been a data breach in that organisation, there would have been millions of records released. It really does work effectively. We see it day to day.
Yeah. It's very much as much about awareness as it is about training our people. Have you heard different training methods like interactive e-learning modules, and even gamification is a term that I'm hearing a bit more lately. Can you talk to me about those different things?
So that's a good question, Dave. So gamification, absolutely. And we see organisations use the numbers coming out of Shadowside, our platform, our insider risk platform, using the numbers to say, hey, legal's doing really well here. You're ahead. You'll get that security awareness award this year, or the sales department's done well in this space, or whatever it might be. And so, making it a bit more interesting, a bit more interactive. Security awareness and so forth. Data security is everyone's issue, as they say. And so getting everyone involved and making it a bit more fun, if we can, is a good thing, because it certainly, people tend to embrace it more.
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. We noticed too. I mean, we report out metrics for our clients every month, typically, and we see a bit of that gamification going on with their reporting into the execs and the board in terms of the metrics, and there's a bit of almost gameplay that go on within departments of an organisation. One that springs to mind is that baselining of risk, and everyone likes to see themselves move away from that baseline more than the other departments. So it's an interesting point. You can make some fun of this sort of thing as well, which I think when you involve a bit of fun, it actually embeds the training deeper into the person's mind. So what's the future, do you think, Chris, for cybersecurity training?
Certainly not going back to the past, the old compliance tick and flick. That's not the future. The future is, we think, insider risk, so implementing insider risk. So to understand what's the trends. So, the future is implementing an insider risk program, start detecting and monitoring users, not to catch people out, but to understand what's trending in the organisation from a risk perspective, integrate all of that, and you get that real-time awareness. You get much better culture uplift in the organisation.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you again, Chris. Appreciate your time today. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We have some other similar videos available on our blog post on shadowsite.io. Until next time, Chris, we'll see you then.
Thanks, Dave.